everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my September wrap up. I'm actually really happy that September is over. September was kind of a long month. I just felt like it dragged on forever, and now we can finally get into the fall season. I know technically fall started in September, but here in Texas it's still in the 90s, so hopefully in the next couple months it'll start getting a little bit cooler, cross our fingers. Anyways, September was a pretty good month for me. I read 4 books, 2 mangas, and then I got halfway through 2 quite chunky books. So I'm really happy with my reading for September. The first book I read in September was The Fiery Heart by Richelle Mead. This is the 4th book in the Bloodline series, and as you know, Hannah and I are rereading the Bloodline series for our Muggle Studies book club, and we already had our live show on both The Fiery Heart and Strange the Dreamer, which I will be talking about later on in this video, but I will leave both of those live shows down below if you want to go check out like our thoughts with all the spoilers and stuff. I gave The Fiery Heart a 5 out of 5 stars. This one was probably my favorite so far in the series. We follow Sydney and Adrian's perspective, which I absolutely loved. I just loved the character development in this book. We really get to see more of Adrian and how spirit affects him, and we also see more of Sydney just kind of, you know, fighting and just really becoming her own character and trying to fight everything that she's been taught. I absolutely loved it, and as I said, it's probably my favorite in the series. Just so much happens in this book. I also couldn't help myself and read Silver Shadows, which is the 5th book in the Bloodline series. This is our Muggle Studies book club pick for October, so I read it a little bit sooner than what I was supposed to, but with the way The Fiery Heart ended, I couldn't help myself and I had to pick up Silver Shadows, and I read it I think in like 1 or 2 days. I read it so quickly, so I think I may reread it in October, but I did read it in September, and I am also giving it a 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it, but I did love The Fiery Heart a little bit more, but things get crazy in Silver Shadows. Like, oh my goodness, so much happens. I just love Richelle Mead's writing. She can put so much action and adventure and suspense and just so much stuff. She puts so much stuff in just one of her books, so I absolutely love her writing style. Next, I read Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This was also our Muggle Studies book club pick for September, and I ended up giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed the plot. I enjoyed the writing style. Laini Taylor's writing style is so unique. It's a little poetic, a little bit. There's a lot of description. It's kind of whimsical. If you've never read Laini Taylor, she just has such a unique writing style. Very similar to Maggie Stiefvater. And I really enjoyed the plot. Like I said, this is an Atlantis retelling. We follow our main character, Laszlo Strange. He is an orphan and a junior librarian, and he is obsessed with a city called Wheat that has been pretty much erased from history. And later on, an opportunity arises for him to travel to this city and basically figure out what happened and why this city was erased from everyone's memory, and all of the books, and just basically was erased from history, and he learns why this happened. And it's just, the premise is so cool, and we have so many unique and diverse characters. I really enjoyed it. The only problem was the pacing. That's kind of why I docked it a little bit of a point, is because for the first like 400 pages, I felt like the story was just so slow, and then finally the last 100 pages, just the story picked up like that, and a lot happened. I mean, it ends on an amazing cliffhanger. It definitely makes me want to pick up Muse of Nightmares, but I just had issues with the pacing. I didn't feel like this book warranted a 532 page book. but I did enjoy it, and once again, the link to our live show will be listed down below. The next book is a reread, and that is Obsidio by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the third and final book in the Illuminae files. I absolutely loved it the first time I read it, and I decided to reread it by listening to the audiobook. I hadn't listened to the audiobook, and Kevin was listening to it, and it was just kind of right there. It was checked out from our library, so I just decided to, listen to it since I had never listened to their audiobooks, and I heard that they were fantastic, and oh my goodness, it was phenomenal. It is just so cool the way the audiobook is done. I mean, there is a whole cast of characters. It's phenomenal. Like, you can pretty much, like, you're listening to the entire book. It's crazy. Just the sound effects and the different voices and the amount of people that they got to read in this book. It's so cool. But also, this book is really cool because it has like such a unique format. So of course the audiobook is going to have a unique format as well. And I wasn't sure, like, I kept hearing people talk about how fantastic the audiobooks were, and I just kept saying like, oh, I just don't understand, like, this is really a book that you need to physically read because there's just so much pictures and diagrams and stuff. But no, like, the audiobook, if you can follow along, it's just such a great reading experience, and I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I read 2 mangas, and that was volume 2 and 3 of Vampire Night by Matsuri Hino, and I really enjoyed it. Volume 2 is my favorite so far, and volume 3 is my second favorite. I really enjoyed it. I gave both of these a 4 out of 5 stars. Well, actually, I'm giving volume 2 a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and then volume 3 a 4 out of 5 stars. So I really am enjoying this manga series. I'm glad that it's the first manga series that I've picked up. So if you are wanting to kind of dabble into mangas, I highly suggest this series because it's easy to follow. The characters are, like, you're able to connect with the characters. There aren't too many characters to where it's confusing. It's just like the perfect amount. The story is really cool. I definitely want to continue on with this series. It just reads so fast. I can read each volume in under an hour, which is great. So the next 2 books I started in September, and I got a good chunk read, so I really wanted to count it because these are really chunky books, and I got halfway through them and I still read like 300 pages. So the first is Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. I was listening to this on audiobook and I was enjoying it. I got more than halfway through. I am currently on page 320 and my audiobook expired on me, so I renewed it and I'm just waiting for it to get checked out again, and that should be hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So hopefully I'll be able to finish it in October. But I am enjoying it. I like where the story is going. I really like the characters. I don't want to go into too much detail because this is the first book in the Dark Artifices series in the Shadow World, but this is the 3rd series in the Shadow World. So if you talk too much about this book, then you're gonna kind of spoil the other ones. Basically, we are following different characters in this series. We're following Emma and Julian instead of the original Isabel, Simon, Alec, Jace, and Clary. So I am really liking the characters so far in this one, but I am missing like Simon and I'm missing Isabel, but I think it'll get really good because I like where the story is going and it's reading pretty quickly. I'm intrigued to see how it's gonna go. There's still a lot that can happen because I'm only halfway through it. And the last book I want to talk about is Northern Lights by Nora Roberts, and I read about 250 pages in this book. And this is the first time that I have not sat down and just like power read through a Nora Roberts book. Usually when I start her books, I just done within 2 or 3 days. But I ended up putting this one down. This is a reread for me. I read it the first time like 10 years ago and I'm really enjoying it. I love the characters, I love the premise, I love the plot, but the first 200 pages was a little slow. Like we just kind of got to the murder mystery part of the story and the rest of like the first 200 pages was a lot of like setting up. So, you know, it's going a little bit slower than I remember. So I had to put it down and finish like the other books that I need to read, like Strange the Dreamer. But I'm hoping that I can pick this one up again soon and just kind of power through and finish it. Alright, well that is it for my September wrap up. I had a really good reading month. I think all of the books were above 4 out of 5 stars or higher, which is really good. So I had a pretty great reading month, and I'm hoping that I can continue on for October because I believe I'm like 3 or 4 books behind on my Goodreads reading challenge. So I need to kind of step it up and read a few more books in October. Comment down below and let me know some of the books that you read in September, and I will see you next time in another video. Bye!